Вот это было хорошо.
Mass Ukrainian strikes on Russian regions are continuing, leaving the Kremlin scrambling to contain the damage. Overnight, explosions rocked the city of Kropotkin in Russia's Krasnodar region, where a drone strike set a power substation ablaze, temporarily cutting electricity to parts of the city. The regional administration later confirmed that the fire was sparked by falling debris from a destroyed drone, though it was quickly extinguished. At the same time, residents in Yelabuga reported hearing blasts as drones approached the city, forcing Russian defenses into action. In Taganrog, further south, explosions and fires were also reported, adding to a growing list of strikes that stretched across several regions. The impact was not limited to the ground. Russia's Civil Aviation Authority, Rosaviatsia, ordered temporary shutdowns at major airports including Kazan, Nizhnekamsk, Saratov, and Volgograd. Flight operations were halted for several hours as a precaution, underlining the scale of the threat and the disruption it causes deep inside Russian territory. For hours, air raid alerts blared across southern and southwestern Russia, keeping entire regions on edge. These coordinated drone operations demonstrate Ukraine's ability to project force far beyond the front lines, hitting infrastructure, energy sites, and transportation hubs. As the strikes intensify, Russia is left facing not only battlefield losses, but also the growing reality of war reaching its own cities. Ukrainian Air Force aircraft struck an elevator facility in Kherson Oblast that Russian troops had converted into a drone command center. The site was destroyed in a precision strike. It is truly remarkable how the Ukrainian Air Force, often seen as the underdog in this war, continues to strike Russian troops on a daily basis. Despite facing a much larger enemy with superior numbers, Ukrainian pilots and drone operators have turned ingenuity, precision, and relentless determination into a decisive edge, proving that quality and strategy can outweigh sheer size. The Ukrainian armed forces are continuing their successful counteroffensive in Donetsk, around Pokrovsk, and in just half a month they have retaken a dozen settlements for which the Russian invaders paid a very heavy price to capture. The 425th Skelia Separate Assault Regiment has cleared the village of Udachny of invaders. This settlement is one of the key locations for encircling the city of Pokrovsk. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine released footage of the Ukrainian flag being raised over the village. Over the course of 2 weeks, assault groups, supported by firepower, destroyed all Russian strongholds in the village and then systematically cleared it, building by building. The soldiers of the 425th Regiment released footage of close-quarters combat in residential areas and the raising of the flag over a school in the western part of the village. The soldiers of the 425th Regiment have been fighting for this village, as well as the nearby settlement of Kotline, since the beginning of the year. In August, Russian forces managed to take control of both settlements, which play an important role in the southern encirclement of the Pokrovsk agglomeration. The return of Udachny to the control of the Ukrainian Defense Forces is expected to complicate the advance of the Russian invaders. A day earlier, the press service of the 425th Regiment announced the liberation of the village of Novekonomichne, located on the northern flank of the Pokrovsk sector. The clearing of the settlement began 2 weeks ago. The insertion of assault groups, identification of the enemy, assault and clearing operations were performed mostly at night. On August 30th and today, we, the soldiers of the 425th Skelia Separate Assault Regiment, will raise this Ukrainian flag in the town of Novoekonomichne. Glory to Ukraine! Glory to the heroes! The regiment declared. Units of the assault regiment also conducted clearing operations against Russian infantry that had infiltrated Ukrainian defensive lines directly into Pokrovsk. It wasn't until mid-August that units of the 7th Rapid Response Corps and adjacent formations were able to fully clear the city of roughly 36 Russian infantrymen. Interrogations of prisoners captured by the 425th Regiment on the outskirts of Pokrovsk revealed some details of the Russian infiltration tactics through the defensive line. It took Russian infantry 14 days to traverse the roughly 25-kilometer route from the occupied town of Selidov to Pokrovsk, moving in small groups. Notably, it took them 10 days to cover the segment from the village of Pishchane to Zakisnikhiv Ukraini Street on the outskirts of Pokrovsk. Thus, each day, the enemy infantrymen advanced only about 600 meters in hopes of avoiding detection. Communications, water, and food were supplied via drone drops. According to Deep State, 120 out of 150 invaders were killed along the way. The interrogation of captured soldiers also confirms this. Our 9th Company went out 2 platoons, around 50 people in total. No more than 8 made it to Pokrovsk. The first details of a disturbing plot to murder Ukrainian politician Andriy Parubiy have come to light, revealing yet another example of how Russia seeks to use terror and coercion to destabilize Ukraine. According to investigators, the suspect in the case was a Ukrainian man who had suffered the loss of his son. Russian operatives allegedly exploited his grief, promising to return the boy's body if he carried out an assassination. Under this pressure, the man chose Parubiy, whose residence he reportedly knew. For months, the suspect is said to have been preparing for the attack. He received weapons from Russian special services, studied Parubiy's movements, and even mapped potential escape routes. The plan was timed to coincide with Ukraine's Independence Day, turning a national celebration into an attempted act of political terror. Fortunately, Ukrainian law enforcement intervened before the murder could be carried out. The suspect was detained and has confessed that his mission was to eliminate Parubiy at Russia's behest. Preliminary findings leave little doubt about Moscow's role in orchestrating the assassination attempt. By exploiting a grieving father, supplying him with weapons, and choosing a symbolic target, Russia demonstrated once again its willingness to weaponize human tragedy in pursuit of political goals. The foiled plot serves as a grim reminder that even away from the battlefield, the Kremlin continues to wage war on Ukraine through subversion, manipulation, and terror. It also highlights the vigilance of Ukrainian security services, who prevented a tragedy that could have shaken the country on one of its most important days. Satellite images from August 31st reveal the aftermath of the UAV strike on the Kuibyshev oil refinery in Russia's Samara region. 2 storage tanks were destroyed, and the AVT-4 unit, a critical facility for initial crude oil processing, was damaged. Russian media confirmed the plant halted operations following the August 28th attack. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent condemned Putin's escalation of bombings in Ukraine, calling it disgusting and contrary to what the Russian leader had signaled during recent diplomatic talks. Bessent warned that all sanctions options are now on the table in response to Moscow's intensified attacks. Consider, let's examine, might, possibly, could. 2 weeks.
Since the phone call when the European leaders and President Zelensky were at the White House the following Monday, has done the opposite of following through on what he indicated he wanted to do. As a matter of fact, he has, in a despicable manner, increased the bombing campaign. So I think with President Trump, all options are on the table, and I think we'll be examining those very closely this week.
Russia's 2025 budget deficit may again exceed projections, potentially surpassing the planned 1.7% of GDP. Insiders cite a faster-than-expected economic slowdown. By July, the deficit had already hit 2.2% of GDP, according to the Finance Ministry's preliminary data.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comments section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.